And then I decided I wanted to run away and join the circus. So I left that August last year.
Forgive me, I know that's the
Went
truth,
through,
but it's just the way you said it.
yeah, yeah.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of EventSpeak with me, Big John, CEO of Beyond Experiential. As you probably know already by this point, we're an interview show that lives on the EventSpeak network. That's all things events, a visual resource directory, if you will, for every aspect of the inclusive event ecosystem. We've been talking with folks from all over the world that have got their fingers into the event game one way or the other. And been having some pretty interesting conversations as of late, as we live in some interesting times. My guest today is no exception to that rule. In fact, Athena probably underlines that rule in many ways. Her and I met many years ago on the Vans Warped Tour, and just recently over social media reconnected and start chatting again, and caught up with her in the fascinating adventures that is her life. Athena has got an event background. She's a marketing and events business strategist and a productivity expert. And she's got her own podcast, Unrestricted. She's an amazing aerialist. She's completely changed her life and reinvented herself. And she's just as talented and intriguing as she is beautiful. And I'm happy to have her on the show today. Welcome, Athena. Thanks for coming by EventSpeak.
Oh, thank you. What a warm welcome that was. Happy to be here.
Well, that's as warm as it gets, so soak it up. I'm kidding. So you're joining me today from Panama, correct?
I am, yes. Panama City, Panama.
Now, I have to ask, I know your folks are there because you've been in the middle of traveling all over the world, and then, of course, COVID happened and everybody kind of stopped what they were doing and sheltered in place, literally. Are your parents from Panama? Like, did they relocate there? Like, what's the deal with Panama?
My parents moved here about 15 years ago. They did a little project down here. They work in construction and design, and they fell in love with it. So they thought, let's go do a working retirement out there. So they've been here for 15 years. So this is usually where I come for the holidays. And in January, I came here to write a book and thought I was going to stay for a month or two. I'm in the middle of this like massive world tour adventure, and COVID hit. So I'm literally trapped in Panama right now.
Trapped in Panama. Let's talk a little bit about the world tour before we get into anything else, because I find this fascinating. I mean, if I remember correctly, you were, like me, out in Southern California at one point, years ago.
Mm-hmm.
You upped and moved to London. And give me the Wikipedia version of life in London and what you were doing there, because I think it's poignant to your transformation.
Yeah. So when I was in LA, I was still, doing Live Nation stuff. So, production management, stage management on the side of the full-time job that I did was working for a boutique experiential agency. So I ran a venue called Zune LA. It was Microsoft Entertainment and Devices, kind of like pop-up, long-term pop-up shop. So I ran that. And then the last project that I did in LA before moving to London was launching the Xbox Connect with Cirque du Soleil at the E3 convention. So it's like this big, huge project. And I was so excited to move over to London, and I thought, cool, I'm going to have no problem getting work. And because I didn't have UK work experience, it was actually really difficult. So that was an interesting moment, coming from like being a massive workaholic and thinking my whole life was defined by my career and the events that I did, to, coming to a place where they're like, oh, so what about that? I was like, what? So I ended up getting a short-term project doing the Ford auto stand at the Geneva Auto Show, like very, very corporate event activation, and it was interesting, but I definitely didn't like it, and ended up getting a role with Guinness World Records, basically creating events in a box that could then be franchised out to other places around the world. So it was a really amazing project to be able to like not only be creative and create these event formats, but also to make them a repeatable format that you then trained other people on how to run your events. So that brought me into the whole world of licensing and franchising, and also doing very, very large scale activations with clients like Visit London and, you know, Guinness Brewery and that sort of thing. And then while I was there, I started getting very conscious, and I started looking at the world a little bit differently and realizing like I needed to align where I was working with how I felt. I'd set up, you know, a food company that I was doing outside of working full time, which was crazy. And I won't go into that in too much detail, but then ended up going over to a youth marketing agency and being the marketing director for this UK-wide £7 million lottery funded program that helped young people get access to free space, which was an incredible project because we were basically enabling young people to host art galleries or have dance rehearsals or, you know, create events or have a desk space. And if we think about when we were young, you know, being able to access a free space to be able to make your dreams come true would have been epic. So I was so passionate about it because, you know, being in events for a very long time, being able to enable young people to do that was incredible. And then I ended up leaving there to launch my food company. And while I was doing that, got introduced to a company that was running London Food Tech Week, which is the largest food tech festival in the world. So for those that don't know the food tech industry, if you picture South by Southwest for the food industry in London, so it was like 50 venues, you know, 150 like speakers across the week and all these different little experiential things and pop-ups and crazy different events. So we had a very, very small team running that. And then I decided I wanted to run away and join the circus. So I left that August last year.
Forgive me, I know that's
Went
the
through,
truth, but it's just the way you said it.
yeah. So I had another kind of like existential crisis, and I was like, you know, London it's hard, like it's intense. It's a very crazy on city, and you just have to hustle. And I was kind of feeling like, do you know what, I want to kind of like free myself and just go explore the world. And I'd gotten into aerial silks and had a personal kind of revelation myself around what was important to me. So I left last August after selling everything. I have 2 suitcases to my name, and I've been traveling the world, meeting up with circus collectives and performing, but also doing consultancy work and writing books and doing that thing. So I'm kind of designing this life that suits me.
I would say that you are, Athena. Wow, that's quite a journey. I mean, it sounds like you went from an extreme of, you know, throwing yourself completely, totally into your work, and then, you know, relocating to a new city across the world, doing the same thing, but finding out it was a very different world you were jumping into. And burying yourself in it, and then just getting this revelation that this is essentially not all of you. In fact, you want more, and you just sort of rolled the dice and went for it. That's really exciting. I'm sure there are a lot of people that are watching right now that, you know, are people that tour, and a lot of tour folks, of course, travel internationally, and they get that bug, and you go. That is an understandable option. And I'm curious how you got into aerial silks. Like what, because, you know, your lifestyle's changed a lot too from what you told me. You quit drinking, you've gotten super healthy and super fit. And was that kind of in check with aerial silks, or what's that journey like? Walk me through that.
Yeah, I mean, as event professionals, I think we get addicted to the highs, right? Like, and you know, it's almost like this badge of honor, like, oh, I just did 18-hour event on my feet, you know, and slept 2 hours, and you just get so addicted to this lifestyle, and it's really exciting. And you put on absolutely impossible things and like really kill yourself to get there. And at some point you burn out. And it's happened to me 2 times at least. It happened to me in LA, which is how I ended up in London. And then it happened to me again a couple years ago. Like I just threw myself into work and had this kind of revelation, like, my God, I don't know what I enjoy outside of work, and I'm doing nothing outside of work, and it's killing me. So I remembered when I was in LA, I did this like crazy cleanse diet for 9 months, which included not drinking. And I just wanted to feel that way again. And I was like, I felt superhuman when I was doing that. So I was like, okay, I'm going to quit drinking. And I was like, I'm going to do it for 90 days and do a cleanse. And I did 90 days and, you know, things just started becoming easier and harder at the same time, because things that I was ignoring in my life that needed to be changed, I now couldn't ignore them anymore. I couldn't escape with friends and go out for the night or whatever. So while I was doing this, no alcohol challenge, you're supposed to also get into a physical activity. And I'd tried aerial silks a couple years before. I wasn't any good at it. I hate being bad at things. So I quit because I wasn't good. And I was like, do you know what? I'm going to go back to that, because I loved the idea of like what I could do if I actually put my mind to it. And I went back, and, that was February 2019. And by September 2019, I was performing in Indonesia with 3 other Cirque du Soleil performers, and quitting drinking, I think, just gave me that extra boost of energy and ability to be able to really make some hard decisions and also commit myself to exercising.
No, I get it, man. I get it. It's like something about when you take away the outer layers and you take away the distractions, then you have but one choice to face your collective reality, and then you either go for it or you don't. I relate to it. My journey has been similar but very different, and it's one of those journeys that goes like this. It goes up and down. Like for me, like I very much relate to what you're saying, and like I'll come out the gate strong. And the thing is like I'm a gym rat. Like I like my routine. I like the environment and the atmosphere of the gym, and seeing people I know there, and there's even just the nod from folks that's like, yeah, you're here, kind of being held accountable. And COVID is of course shut all that down, and then it's like, well, I'm stuck at home, and what else is there to do now? But whiskey is good, and Guinness is good, and things like that. And it's funny because in the moment be like, oh, this is great, and then you quickly start to long to feel the way you did, as you just were reminiscing to. And I very much relate to that, because it just recently started, kind of gave myself a good smack in the face, so to speak, and was like, listen, who knows when these gyms are going to open again, and even once they do, how easily accessible are they going to be? So I'm like, you're going to have to take that initiative again and figure out what works for you and ways to be healthy away from that, which is really tough for me, because it's like when we're in the world that we kind of collectively live in, you're not going to an office brick and mortar, even when you are making money. So you're kind of a master of your own domain. And, I attribute a lot of my self-discipline that I've been gaining from my Buddhist practice, but it's still, it's tough. It's tough in this, in especially all that we're all faced in dealing with now, especially when people, use a vice like drinking or whatever it is to kind of deal with stress. When you remove that, you have to replace that with something healthy. You need the healthy outlet. So you have a lot of outlets. Let's talk a little bit about Unrestricted. I know this is brand new for you. And I've checked out the show. I really enjoy it. And I think you do a really great job with it. Tell me a little bit about where this comes from and what it's about and how people could find it.
So, from my own experience, and I think the pressure of the world, particularly the pressure in the events industry, like people kill themselves and they do nothing but work. And it's the same thing with being an entrepreneur. So you start a business and you end up just getting addicted to the work and really stressing yourself out and anxious about all the things that you need to do. So you only end up doing work and you don't take care of yourself. And a lot of this is driven by our beliefs that were constructed for us. So this idea of success, often if we sit with it and we're like, what does it mean to me to be successful? We will talk about what society views as success instead of really being true with ourselves and like, what does success look like to me? What does my life look like? So Unrestricted was born out of, this desire to showcase people who are living differently, people who are being brave enough to sit with themselves and say, like, what does success look like to me? And I'm going to go against the norm. And that's really hard to do. And you end up coming against a lot of barriers and objections when you do something differently, when you step outside the matrix and be that glitch in the matrix, and people are like, I'm scared because you're doing something differently, so I'm going to give you advice that I think is helpful and will protect you, but actually it's like trying to stop you from doing things differently. So we have guests on that are doing incredible things, but they're normal people, right? Like, I don't like this picture perfect idea of what success looks like, because starting a business or working in events or just life is messy. And we got into this problem because all we're being shown is the final edit reel instead of all the footage that's been cut and on the floor. So it's a great way to just, explore different people. So, I've had women that do ecstatic dance, and I've had a woman that's driving around the US in a van doing fire dancing and was a high-end massage therapist. And I've got a woman that's using pole dancing to help women overcome issues that they have with sexual trauma, like talk about like, whoa, like the impressions and prejudices that people have around pole dancing. And actually it can be this tool to empower women to get over their sexual trauma. So it's a passion project of mine. And I just think a lot of us, especially event professionals, are now sat at home. And I think a lot of people are having that conversation with myself. Like, when I'm not on the road, when I'm not at events, what do I actually do? So it's an opportunity to just explore what is this new version of my life look like? And how do I want to fill the time? And was the way I was spending my time before good to me? Was that filling me up?
Wow, I really relate to what you're saying there. There was this bumper sticker I saw years ago. It might have been a Warped Tour. They all blended together after a while, but it said "No home but the road," and it was a tattoo people were getting. And I really, for a while, I wore that like a badge of honor.
Mm-hmm.
And like I remember I had the magnet on my fridge, and that becomes true for folks in the event industry. I'm sure there are people watching now, whether you're in the music industry, whether you're in brand marketing, experiential. If you're in events, you're out on the road. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. And I feel like we lose our identity to it. It becomes part of our identity, but at the same time, it can't be all of our identity. And I feel like we become better when we step outside of our comfort zone, and when you embrace the pillowy abyss of the darkness, and you say, like, this is scary as shit. I have no idea what's coming next, and I am absolutely freaking out. And to that, I tell people, congratulations, because now anything is possible. You have to be comfortable with the uncomfortable, because comfort to us, I think, becomes like a crutch. Like familiarity becomes like a crutch. Like, it's just too easy, especially when you get into certain parts of our business where you can get these long running gigs that they pay well, and they take you out for a while, and when you're not out, you're still making money, and you're just you're not finding yourself in a position where you have to push yourself, try to reinvent yourself, always be growing, always be setting good causes, creating value in everything that you do in your life. And I feel like you're really embracing that. Like, I I've been watching your journey even before you and I start talking again, and I relate to it on a lot of levels, and I find it very inspiring. So I think that's great, and I think it's great that you're doing so well, Athena, and I'm really excited for you and to have you back in my life and on the show. And I just want to say, please, by all means, EventSpeak is something that we are really trying hard to turn into a real feeling of home and community for everybody in the event world. And, we want to do that in a different approach. And we're turning it into a dual meaning of the word network. You know what I mean? Like networking is in a traditional sense, but I feel like nowadays there's so much to be said that just putting it in type isn't enough. You got to match a face and a voice with it. And that's where the visual aspect of it comes from. So, I'm just really grateful to have you on the show today. And let me ask you this. So for people that are interested and want to know how you do what you do, and maybe if you can help them do what they're trying to do, AthenaSimpson.com is where they find you, right?
Yes, definitely.
Definitely. And then the gram of the Instagram is what?
Oh, yes. So I am most active on Instagram. You can find me at Athena.Simpson, and the unrestricted world that I'm creating, that project, can be found at un.restricted. So that's where I pump out most of the content and notifications about the podcast that I'm doing. And there'll be some exciting things coming up for self-employed and entrepreneurs that I'm going to work with them to help teach them the things that I've learned myself, but in a way that makes sense to us, like the corporate idea of productivity and organizing your life and taking care of yourself. I've always been like, ugh, I don't get that. And then the hardcore spiritual stuff, I'm like, I'm really afraid of that. So just trying to normalize these ideas of taking care of ourselves, because the events industry especially, like there's so much burnout and there's so much like mental health issues. And if you can learn some systems and structures to take care of yourself, you're going to be that much better at your work and at life.
Well said. And I agree with you 100%. Athena Simpson, everybody. Athena, thank you so much for coming by the show today. It's Athena Simpson. I can't talk. AthenaSimpson.com. And I, of course, am still Big John, and this is still EventSpeak on the all-new EventSpeak network at www.eventspeak.com. Until next time, please take care of yourselves and each other.